You are driving on a residential road and you're approaching an intersection controlled by a four-way stop. You should know if the vehicles arrive at approximately the same time, each driver must yield to the driver on the right. Vehicles proceed to the intersection in the order they arrived at. The first vehicle to reach the intersection must go first. What is the first thing to do when doing a 3-point lap? Signal your left turn. Then check carefully for oncoming traffic. You are approaching an intersection with a green light and you want to turn right, but first you must check if there is any sign that forbids it. What should you do if you hear a siren nearby but can't see where the emergency vehicle is? You must safely pull over to the right side of the road. This sign means two-way traffic. When you drive in rain, fog, or smoke during the day, you should turn on the low beams. After passing a large vehicle, what should you do before returning to the large vehicle's lane? You make sure you can see the entire front of the vehicle before returning to your lane after you pass it. Of the traffic signs that appear, which of them indicates a slow-moving car? When there is fog, rain, or snowfall, you must keep the lights low. You drive on a dry road and it starts to rain. You must reduce the speed and double the normal stopping distance. When attempting to park your vehicle on a hill or incline on a two-way road with no curb or sidewalk, you must park as follows. Point the front wheels to the right, followed by the emergency brake with the transmission in P park, and then turn the vehicle off. You have just entered a freeway entrance ramp. You must check for an empty space to enter traffic and flash your lights to indicate your turn. Before crossing any railroad track, you must make sure that there is enough space for your vehicle on the other side. Any driver, bicyclist, or pedestrian approaching a highway or railroad crossing must stop within 50 feet, 15 meters. You're driving in the right lane of a multi-lane highway, and in front of you is a car moving from side to side. What should you do? You slow down a bit so you don't even have to pass that car. If there are no speed limit signs, what is the maximum speed you can legally drive in the city? You can drive at a speed without accidents. Can you stop to load your unload passengers at a no standing or no parking sign? Yes, you can only temporarily to load or unload passengers. The driver cannot get out of the vehicle. Any driver under the age of 18 who accumulates 6 or more point violations within a 12-month period is restricted for 1 year to driving for business purposes only. You may drive off a paved highway to pass another vehicle under no circumstances. The basic color for the different traffic control devices used in construction and maintenance work areas is orange. Changing from one lane to another is done better, gradually and carefully. To check your blind spot when changing lanes to the left, you should look over your left shoulder. A red arrow pointing right on a traffic light means that you cannot turn in that direction until the light turns green. What should you do when another vehicle passes you on the left? You slow down slightly and stay in the center of your lane. Of the signs that appear below, which of them indicates that you have to give another way to other vehicles? Every time you prepare to drive before starting the engine of your parked vehicle, you must make sure that the car is in P parked or neutral. Driving down a main avenue, you see a vehicle approaching from behind. When you check your mirror to change lanes, you no longer see the vehicle. You must look over your shoulder to make sure that the vehicle is not in your blind spot. What does this sign mean? Do not enter if your vehicle is taller than the indicated height on the sign. You are driving on a multi-lane highway with a single solid white line painted between the lanes. You must avoid changing lanes unless it is to avoid an accident. If you see a bicyclist on the road ahead with their left arm extended straight out, you should assume that that bicyclist is signaling to change to the left lane or turn. You are approaching an intersection where you want to turn, but you are not in the correct lane. You should drive to the next intersection and make the turn from the correct lane. Of the traffic signs that appear, which of them indicates speed reduction ahead? You are driving on a slippery highway and your vehicle begins to skid to the right edge. You must take your foot off the accelerator and steer in the direction where you are skidding, even if it means going off the road. Any driver who is stopped by a police officer and found to have a BAC of 0.08 or higher at the time of arrest, its driving privilege will be suspended. When you have properly parked your vehicle in a front parking space, no part of your vehicle should exit into a lane of traffic. This sign means school crossing ahead. Of the traffic signs that appear, which of them indicates that the drivers should keep to the right? When approaching another vehicle from behind at night, you have to dim your high beams to 500 feet from the other vehicle. If you are driving on a highway and when you try to exit, you miss the exit ramp, what should you do? Continue to the next exit. Which of these signs that appear indicates a winding road? Lots of curves. In most cases, on which side can you pass another vehicle going in the same direction? Usually to the left. Of the traffic signals that appear below, which of them indicates that you must stop behind the pedestrian line? You're driving on a highway. You must remember that the greatest dangers on highways are rear end car collisions from driving too closely. Of the traffic signs that appear, which of them indicates a double curve? An intersection has crosswalk lines, but no stop lines. Where should you stop for a red light at that intersection? Before the crosswalk line. You have just entered a freeway entrance ramp. You must check for any empty space to enter traffic and flash your lights to indicate your turn. Before you cross any railroad track, if you have to stop your vehicle, you must make sure there is room for your vehicle on the other side. You are driving in the right lane of a multi-lane highway, and in front of you is a car moving from side to side. What should you do? You should slow down a bit so you don't have to pass that car. How are the blind spots around a large commercial vehicle different from the blind spots around a car? Your blind spots are larger. It takes a car longer to pass them. After passing another car, it is safe to return to your lane when you see the tires or headlights of the car you passed in the rear view mirror. At an intersection with a traffic light and a yellow arrow on at the same time as a green light means that the vehicles moving in that direction of the arrow should stop if they can, because the arrow soon will turn red. This sign means do not enter a road or ramp where this sign is displayed. So if you see the sign, do not enter. Before pulling out of a parking space, what should you do? Signal your intention to leave your space and also check in your side mirrors that you do not see any vehicles or pedestrians. This sign means you must turn left on a green light when it is safe. A load that overhangs the sides of a vehicle more than 4 feet, 1.2 meters, behind the rear must be clearly marked during the day with red flags at least 18 inches square to mark the ends of the load. Of the traffic signs that appear, which of them indicates a U-turn is prohibited? Take a look. What is the maximum distance that can be parked with respect to the curb or sidewalk? 12 inches. Which lane should you use when passing another vehicle? Turning left or driving faster? Use the left lane. What should you do if you're blinded by the headlights of an oncoming vehicle? Look at the right edge of your lane until they pass. What is road rage? How should I avoid being involved in a road rage incident? Well, avoid making eye contact with the aggressive driver and also ignore the gestures and shouts and do not reciprocate. Of the traffic signs that appear, which of them indicates that drivers may lose control if you leave the pavement? A school bus has stopped up ahead on your side of the road and its red lights are on. What should you do? Stop while the red light is flashing. Slow down just to see an accident, construction on the road, or disabled vehicle on the side of the road all cause traffic congestion. This sign means don't turn left. Driving slowly with traffic in the last lane on any highway can definitely frustrate other drivers and make them angry. What is the meaning of this signal? Yield. Every time you prepare to drive before starting the engine of your parked vehicle, you must make sure that the car is in park, P for park, or natural. You try to change lanes and see a vehicle approaching from the rear. When you check your mirrors To change lanes, you no longer see the vehicle. You must look over your shoulder to make sure the vehicle is not in your blind spot. What does this sign mean? Do not enter if your vehicle is taller than the height indicated on the sign. You can't be arrested for any of these driving offenses. For driving under the influence of drugs or alcohol, and for driving with a blood alcohol content of 0.08. While driving on a highway, if one of your tires is punctured after you regain control and slow down, you should brake smoothly and leave the pavement completely. If you're going to drive on a highway, you must plan your trip. You must know exactly where you will enter and where you will exit. Of the traffic signals that appear, which of them prohibits you from turning at a red light? How should you use the brake on a slippery road? Depress the brake by pumping slowly and evenly. On which of these conditions does your blood alcohol content, BAC, depend? Depends on how much alcohol do you drink or how much time goes by between those drinks. Does driving within the range of your headlights mean you can stop your vehicle in less than 350 feet? Of the traffic signs that appear below, which of them indicates that a traffic control light is approaching? You're ready to drive your car. You must put on your seat belt, with the lap belt snug above the hip. If you're involved in a minor accident and your vehicle is blocking the road, you should try to move it off the road. When you drive with the window open, you definitely must not lean your elbow on the window. When you have properly adjusted your vehicle's interior, rear view mirror, and exterior mirrors, you must remember that you will still have blind spots near the sides and rear corners of your vehicle that cannot be seen. Of the traffic signs that appear, which of them indicates that the road has a sharp curve to the left? When can you drive in a bicycle lane? When you are within 200 feet of an intersection where you plan to make a right turn. Any amount of alcohol in the blood could affect driver knowledge. More than one vehicle is approaching a four-way stop. Who has the right of way? The first driver to reach the intersection and stop. When merging with freeway traffic, you should drive at or near the speed of freeway traffic. To reverse your vehicle, you must check behind your vehicle before starting to back up and place your right arm behind the front passenger seat and turn so that you can see directly out the rear window. If a driver refuses to submit to a breath test or blood test for alcohol, your driving privilege will be suspended for 1 year. When you're preparing to drive before starting the engine, you should make sure you close all the doors of your vehicle. A low area on the road ahead. Drivers sometimes adopt incorrect ways when driving. The correct way to drive is with both hands holding the steering wheel. If you approach a railroad crossing without control signals, you should be prepared to slow down and listen and watch for any trains that are approaching. When you drive on a street with double continuous lines, the driver must know that thing is not permitted in that area. Traffic signs painted red indicate regulatory stop signs. Stop. Do not enter. Wrong way. Yield. If a car suddenly cuts in front of you in your lane and is going to crash into you, honk your horn and flash your lights. Brake hard and maneuver your car to the right edge. Let me repeat that answer. Honk your horn and flash your lights. Brake hard and maneuver your car to the right edge. You are stopped on a railway line. The train finishes passing so you can proceed when you are sure another train doesn't come. This warning sign alerts us that there is soon a divided highway that begins. Truck is ahead of you and is about to turn right onto a two-lane street in each direction. The truck may need to make a wide turn to complete the right turn. A double yellow line may be crossed to pass another vehicle if the yellow line on your side of the road is dashed. You drive defensively when remaining vigilant and be aware of possible dangers. All of the following activities are dangerous to do while driving. What is also illegal? Listening to music with headphones that cover both of your ears. You are ready to exit the freeway, so you should begin to slow down as soon as you exit the freeway and are on an exit ramp. Of the traffic signs that appear below, which of them indicates that it is a zone for not passing another car? You drive an automatic transmission vehicle. When parking on a hill, you must apply the emergency brakes before placing the transmission in park. When finding this traffic sign, we must know that its function is that you should keep on your right. If your car's turn signals fail, you must use hand signals to indicate that you are going to turn. Drivers may not pass another vehicle on their left if the lane has a solid yellow centered line and or they are approaching a curve on a two-way highway and cannot see around them. When the light indicates red, you may turn right after you stopped firmly before the crosswalk and check that it is safe to turn. When a motor vehicle is on the highway, it is illegal to have open containers of alcohol in the passenger's compartment. Your first response to poor visibility should be slow down your speed. Of the traffic signs that appear, which of them indicates the end of a divided highway? It is mandatory to give way to emergency vehicles. How do you give way to these vehicles? Driving as close as possible to the right edge of the road and stopping. When the road close sign is posted, drivers must find a detour or another route. What is road rage? What can you do to avoid being involved in a road rage incident? So avoid making eye contact with the aggressive driver and also ignore any gestures and shouts and do not reciprocate. You want to turn right at the next intersection. You should slow down and put on your turn signal at least 100 feet before turning. The safest measure you can take regarding the use of cell phones while driving is use hands-free devices so you can keep both of your hands on the wheel. You're involved in a minor collision with a parked vehicle and cannot find the owner. You should leave a note in the vehicle with your phone number and also report the accident without delay to the city police. If you drive faster than other vehicles on a one-lane road in each direction and constantly pass other vehicles, you increase the chances of being involved in an accident. To avoid last-minute maneuvers, you should look at the stretch and road ahead where your vehicle will be driving in approximately 10 to 15 seconds. This sign means that later divided highway ends. Can someone drink alcohol and drive safely? No one can drink alcohol and drive safely. There are intersections with control signals that have sensors to detect vehicles when a car stops with a red light behind the pedestrian line. Alcohol reduces all the skills necessary to drive safely, such as judgment, reaction, vision, and concentration. What is the first thing that alcohol affects? The judgment of a person. A yellow traffic sign, like this one, warns us of right lane reduction. If you're driving and your right wheels come off the pavement, you should take your foot off the accelerator, hold the steering wheel firmly, and slow down slowly. If you have a car with conventional brakes, in case of emergency, you must pump the brakes repeatedly to prevent them from locking. If you drive a vehicle with conventional brakes in heavy rain and your car starts to skid, you should take your foot off the accelerator and steer your car in a straight line. It is prohibited by law to race in the streets. If found guilty of this crime, driver's license will be suspended, criminal charges, and possible jail time. Turn signals are also required by law when changing lanes. Passing a vehicle or turning, you must turn on your turn signal at least 100 feet, 30 meters before turning. Turning a corner may seem like a simple operation, but many crashes occur because drivers do not turn correctly. When making a turn, you should reduce your turning speed to a safe speed and get into the correct lane in time. If you're driving on a highway and another driver tells you that your brake lights are not working, you should roll down the driver's window and signal hands to communicate with other drivers. The driver's left arm and hand are extended upward. This hand signal means that the driver plans to turn right, or change into the right lane. If a driver puts his hand out the window, the left window, and keeps it extended outward, he is telling us he or she intends to turn left or change into the left lane. If a driver puts his hand out the window and keeps it extended downward, he is telling us he or she is going to stop or slow down. When should you double your following distance behind another car? Let me repeat. When should you double your following distance behind another car? When it rains or the roads are wet, low visibility, dusk, dawn, fog. When there are cyclists driving in your lane, you should increase following distance and pass at least 3 feet away. When you are going to change lanes after placing your turn signals, you need to turn your head and look over your shoulder to detect any vehicle in the blind spot. If you are driving on a highway and see these signs, you should never drive in the lane with a red X. Never pass a stopped vehicle at a stop sign because a pedestrian may be crossing in front of the stopped car and maybe you cannot see it. When trying to drive in reverse, slowly start checking everything around you. Be very aware of your surroundings. When driving with the window down, you should not rest your elbow on the window. Two white lines continue to divide the lanes of traffic means that you cannot pass another vehicle or change lanes. What is the maximum height allowed between the pavement and the bottom of the front and rear bumper of a 3,000 pounds to 5,000 pounds pickup truck? 20 inches tall. 28 inches tall. Excuse me. If you're going to tow another vehicle with a chain or rope, you must place a white flag in the center of the towing chain or rope. A traffic sign like this one, a flashing yellow light tells us if you are approaching a drawbridge function, you should be prepared to stop. This traffic sign tells us the maximum speed you can drive at that area. If you come to an intersection with a flashing yellow light, you should slow down and cross the intersection with caution. When driving behind a large truck, you should maintain a safe following distance so that the truck driver can see through rear view mirrors. When you see a sign like this, it is prohibited. U-turn. If your car breaks down while driving and forces you to stop, you should have be you should be off the road, hazard lights on, and call for assistance. So let me repeat the question. If your car breaks down while driving and forces you to stop, the first thing you should do is get off the road, hazard lights on, and call for assistance. If you arrive at the scene of an accident where there are injured people, the first thing you have to do is call immediately for help by calling 911. If a school bus stops to unload students on a street and displays its stop signal, all cars must stop and wait until the stop arm is retracted. What does this traffic sign tells us? Restricted lane for certain vehicles during rush hour. When driving on a street made up of 3 to 5 lanes, you should know that the center lane is to maintain constant speed. If you drive a heavy truck or motorhome, you will need to take into account how far you follow other vehicles. Therefore, you should double the following distance. When passed by another car, you should not increase your speed while another vehicle passes you. When you're about to pass another car on the left, you should not return to the right side until you can see that you can visually see the tires of the vehicle you passed on your rear view mirror. Repeating the question. When you're about to pass another car on the left, you should not return to the right until you can see on your mirror the tires of the vehicle you passed on your rear view mirror. Hope that makes sense. Use a 3-point turn only if the road is too narrow or narrow. First thing you should do is move to the right as far as you can, make a left turn signal, check, and proceed. You are driving on a highway. You must remember that the greatest dangers are on highways, and those dangers are rear end car crashes from driving too close, If you're going to drive on a highway, you must plan your trip. You must know exactly where you will enter and where you will exit, especially if you're a beginner driver. A white rectangular shaped sign indicate the maximum speed allowed. When you're driving on a multi-lane road and intend to change lanes, you should not attempt to change lanes in but intersections. When driving on a road with more than two lanes in the same direction, if you want to change lanes, you must turn on your flashing lights and check blind spot by turning head over shoulder. This sign warns us that ahead there is a slippery road. When approaching an intersection with a green light, you must proceed through the intersection only if it's clear of other vehicles and pedestrians. Before turning at an intersection, we must yield to all cyclists and pedestrians coming from any direction. A yellow sign like this tells us that ahead there is a sharp curve to the right. You must slow down and stay to the right. When preparing to drive, you must put on your seatbelt correctly and make sure that all passengers also put on their seatbelts. All drivers and passengers with vehicles manufactured after 1972 are required to travel with a seatbelt in place unless a passenger has a medical condition. When driving on a main road with traffic lines, dashed white color tells us that the vehicles move in the same direction and you can change lane when safe. If you're driving on a road and see this traffic sign on your right, it tells us that we are approaching a railway crossing. Motorcycle drivers have the same responsibility as car drivers by law. They must have a specific license or a motorcycle endorsement on a regular driver's license to legally drive or ride. A solid white line on the pavement indicates you should stay in your lane and avoid lane changes. When traveling on a residential avenue, you must always give way to vehicles that are exiting driveways or alleys.